The Zephyrian warship hovered silently above the ruins of New London. It looked like a giant black insect with glowing red eyes, staring down at a defeated world. The once busy cities were now silent. Earth had lost the war. Humanity had surrendered, but one woman hadn't. Captain Alara Quinn stood inside a cold metal hallway of the alien ship. Her hands were cuffed in front of her. Two tall Zephyrian guards walked behind her, their long arms gripping alien weapons. They watched her carefully, as if they didn't trust her. They were right not to. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She didn't look scared. She walked like a soldier. The hallway opened into a large chamber. The Zephyrian command room. It was huge, with metal floors, tall alien screens, and floating red drones recording everything. At the center of the room sat the High Commander of the Zephyrian Army, General Verkor. His silver armor glowed, and his 4 yellow eyes stared directly at Alara. He wanted to see fear. He saw none. "Captain Alara Quinn," Verkor said. His voice cold and sharp, translated into English by a speaker device. "You are the last known officer of Earth's resistance. You were supposed to surrender today." Alara looked up, calm as ever. "Was I?" There was a long silence. The commander stood. "Your planet is broken. Your leaders are gone. Your people kneel before us. Yet you smile. Why?" Alara didn't answer. Instead, she looked around the room. She counted the guards. She noticed the blinking red lights in the walls. She saw a security camera pointed straight at her face, and then she smiled wider. "I've seen bigger aliens," she said casually. The guards around her tensed. One of them stepped forward, but Verkor raised a hand. He was curious now. "Is this how humans show surrender?" he asked. Alara shrugged. "Is this how aliens show fear?" Verkor laughed, but there was something nervous behind it. "You have nothing left, Captain." "Why fight?" "I'm not fighting," she said. "I'm distracting." That word, distracting, echoed in the air like a warning bell. Verkor's smile disappeared. "What do you mean?" Before Alara could answer, the ship shook, hard. Lights flickered. A loud boom rang through the walls. Alarms screamed. Guards shouted in their alien tongue. The floor trembled under their feet. Something had exploded. "What is this?" Verkor roared. Alara turned to him slowly. Her smile was now colder, sharper. "You thought this was a surrender ceremony," she said. "It's not. It's a countdown." The screen behind the commander blinked to life. A human face appeared, a man in a pilot helmet. Static buzzed around his voice, but the message was clear. "This is Ember 1. Phase 1, complete. Ready for Phase 2. Alara, your move." Verkor's eyes went wide. "There's a resistance ship inside our perimeter?" Alara nodded. "Actually, there are 3, but who's counting?" The chamber exploded into chaos. Guards rushed to secure exits. Red lights flashed across every screen. Sirens howled, and through all of it, Alara stood still. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. The commander pointed at her. "Seize her." 2 guards stepped forward. But before they could reach her, another explosion. This one was closer. The floor cracked. Smoke poured through the ceiling. Suddenly, one of the walls burst open. A human figure in black armor stepped out of the smoke. A resistance agent. He threw a small device on the floor. It exploded into a bright flash when the smoke cleared. Alara was gone. Moments later, in the lower tunnels of the ship, Alara ran through narrow, dim corridors beside the armored agent. Her cuffs were gone. Her eyes were focused. "You were late," she said. The agent replied. "Blame alien elevators." She gave a small smile. "Phase 2. He handed her a device, a small, glowing cylinder. "In your hands now." They reached a locked door. The agent tapped a code. The door opened to reveal a hidden chamber filled with wires, blue lights, and a control panel. Ilara stepped forward, placing the cylinder inside the panel. "All right, aliens," she said under her breath. "Let's see how your ship likes human fire." She pressed the switch. Back in the command room, Varkor stood frozen, watching the ship systems fail one by one. Doors stopped working. Shields dropped. Energy levels crashed. "This is not a soldier," he whispered. A recording of Ilara's voice played from a speaker overhead. "You wanted me to kneel, but humans don't kneel. Not unless we're about to jump." Asterisk, the world remembered the day Earth fell. It was quiet, not with peace, but with fear. Cities burned in silence. Skies were filled with dark clouds and Zephyrian ships that watched every corner of the planet. Humanity had signed the surrender agreement with shaking hands. The alien empire had crushed every defense line. Earth was no longer home. It was a prison with no walls. But even in silence, a spark can survive. Long before Captain Ilara Quinn stood in that alien warship, before she smiled in the face of her enemy, before she became a symbol, she was just a soldier hiding underground. She hadn't seen the sun in months. Somewhere below the ruins of old Paris, hidden in tunnels built long before the First World War, Ilara sat at a metal table. The lights flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling every time an alien ship passed above. Around her, a small team of humans worked on old computers, rewired broken drones, and watched alien signals on hacked screens. They called this place the Ember Core. It wasn't a base. It was a spark waiting to become fire. Ilara looked different back then. Her uniform was torn, her hands were scarred, and her eyes carried the weight of every city lost. But her voice, that never changed, it was always calm, always clear. "We won't win by fighting head-on," she had said. "We'll win by surviving longer than they expect. And then, hitting where they don't." No one believed they could win, not even her closest allies. The Zephyrians had wiped out 93% of Earth's defenses in 6 days. Their technology was beyond anything humans had imagined. Their soldiers were taller, faster, stronger. They could read thoughts. They could bend metal with their claws. And still, Ilara didn't flinch. One night, while rain poured into the broken city above, a young rebel ran into the Ember Core carrying the stolen Zephyrian communicator. He placed it on the table and said just 4 words: "They're building a weapon." That changed everything. The communicator revealed secret plans. The Zephyrians weren't done with Earth. They were building a planet killer, something designed to erase the last human colony hidden in the Himalayas. No mercy, no delay. That was the night Ember Project began. Ilara made a plan. It was risky, it was bold. It sounded like suicide. She said, "I'll let them capture me." Her team protested. They shouted, "They'll torture you, kill you." But she didn't listen. She knew one thing the Zephyrians didn't. Humans had always been at their strongest when they had nothing left to lose. In the weeks that followed, Ilara trained alone. She studied the alien language. She memorized the layouts of their ships, every corridor, every weak point. The Resistance had one man inside the alien ranks, a deep-cover spy who had never broken his cover. His code name was Ash. He sent just one message before going dark: "I can get her out. But she has to get in first." So she let herself get caught. She blew up a Zephyrian supply station, stood in the middle of the flames, and waited for them to come. They chained her, beat her, dragged her through the stars. But she smiled, because every second she stood in front of their high commander, pretending to be weak, pretending to surrender, was a second her team used to sneak into their systems, place charges, and send coded signals across the stars. It wasn't surrender. It was distraction. And it worked. Back in Ember Core, as the sky above shook from the first explosions on the alien ship, the rebels stared at the screen. A blinking signal came through. It was weak, fuzzy, but it was her voice. Phase 1 complete. Tears fell. Cheers broke out, but they knew it wasn't over, not yet, because Alara wasn't just trying to escape. She was trying to burn the heart of the enemy. The core of the Zephyrian ship, the power source, was still active, still dangerous, still ready to wipe out millions. And she was heading straight for it. Ash, hidden in the vents of the ship, watched her through a security camera. She's in, he whispered. God help the aliens, because once the spark finds fuel, it becomes fire, and this fire had a name, Alara Quinn. The air inside the Zephyrian warship felt heavier the deeper Alara moved. Alien machines hissed softly from the walls. Blue lights blinked above her head like eyes watching her every step. The metal under her boots was cold, silent, alive. This wasn't just a ship. It was a monster, one that had swallowed entire cities, entire worlds. And now, she was crawling through its veins. Behind her, Ash followed close. He was a shadow inside shadow, silent, sharp, and deadly. No one had seen him in over a year. Some thought he was dead. Some hoped he was. But Alara knew the truth. He had been waiting. He tapped her shoulder and pointed up. Above them was a long vent that led straight to the inner command tunnels. They climbed fast, like ghosts. Neither of them spoke. Every second mattered. Up ahead, through the cracks in the wall, Alara could see the alien crew running. Red lights flashed. Loud voices barked orders in a language that sounded like metal grinding on glass. The ship was in chaos. Their plan had worked, but chaos wasn't safety. Not yet. They stopped near a grated floor. Below, a group of Zephyrian officers argued over power failures and security breaches. One of them slammed a clawed hand on a console. Shut down every system. Find the human. Kill her. No more games. Alara smiled without humor. They were scared. GWSN single quotes. Ash whispered. They've activated lockdown. Doors are sealing across every level. We won't have much time. Alara nodded. We only need 10 minutes. After that, we're either free or we're fire. They dropped silently into a dark corridor. Ash opened a hidden panel and handed Alara a small device, a pulse beacon, shaped like a silver coin. This will disable the core shield. For 47 seconds, no more. 47 is plenty, she said. Sliding it into her pocket, they moved fast now, through tunnels, past empty rooms, around guards who had no idea death was walking behind them. The deeper they went, the more the ship began to feel sick. Flickering lights, sparks from walls, low hums turning into painful screeches. The damage was spreading. The Ember Strike team outside had done their part. Now it was her turn. They reached the core hull. It was massive, a spinning black engine surrounded by energy walls and long coils of alien metal. It pulsed like a beating heart, glowing red with power. It was beautiful, terrifying. It was also unguarded. Too quiet. Alara stepped forward. The moment her boots touched the floor, the lights shut off. Darkness swallowed them. Then, a voice. You humans never learn. The High Commander stepped into view from the shadows. Behind him, 4 armored guards aimed weapons at Alara's chest. Ash raised his own weapon, but Alara held out her hand. No, this is mine. Verkor looked at her with something between hatred and admiration. You should have surrendered. I did, she replied. To the fire. With one quick move, she pressed the pulse beacon to the floor. The sound that followed was like a roar underwater. The engine flickered. Its shields dropped. 40-7 seconds. Verkor lunged. Alara ran. She reached the control panel. Her hands flew over it, entering stolen codes, bypassing alien firewall she had studied for months. Sparks flew. Heat surged. Ash took down one guard. Then another. He was fast, brutal, a storm in black. But the commander kept coming. 30 seconds. Ilara gritted her teeth. Come on. Come on. A screen lit up. The code had worked. The core began to overload. Alarms screamed louder than ever before. 20 seconds. Ash was bleeding now. He stood between her and the commander, holding a broken blade. Get out, he said. Ilara didn't move. Not without you. I'm already gone, he whispered. 10 seconds. Verkor roared and charged. Ilara turned, picked up Ash's fallen blade, and drove it into the wall's energy circuit. Sparks exploded everywhere. The force threw her back. 5 seconds. She crawled to the override switch. Her hand burned. Her body screamed. She hit the button. Then nothing. Silenced the core. Shut down. Emergency lights blinked. Ilara lay on the floor, breathing hard. Ash was gone. The guards were gone. Even the commander had vanished into smoke. But she was alive, and the ship was dying. She stood slowly. Her voice, rough but steady, echoed through the empty chamber. You wanted to see the end of the human race? This is it. The end of fear. The end of surrender. From now on, we don't run. Her signal reached Ember Core seconds later. They heard her voice. They saw the damage. They smiled. Because she was inside the enemy, and the enemy was breaking. The Zephyrian warship was bleeding. Smoke rose from the cracks in its walls. Lights flickered like dying stars. Drones buzzed aimlessly in the air, confused and blind. Inside the giant alien machine, confusion turned to panic. Orders were shouted, then silenced. Systems failed one by one. And in the middle of it all, a human walked calmly through the fire. Captain Ilara Quinn. Her armor was scratched. Her hands were burnt. But her eyes burned brighter than ever. She was not lost. She was home. Because this chaos, this fire was her doing. She had made the enemy shake. And now she would make them fall. Ilara walked alone now. Ash was gone. The core room was in ruins. She had only one goal left: find the heart of the ship and stop it. Not for escape, for justice. She passed a shattered screen that once showed the faces of Earth's broken leaders. Now it showed static. The Zypharians had used fear to control humanity, silence, weapons, power. They had taken so much. Families, cities, dreams. But they had forgotten one thing. You can break bones. You can break walls. But you can't break will, not human will. She entered a narrow corridor, unfamiliar, darker, quieter. The alarms here had stopped. There was no shouting, no guards. Just a low hum, almost like a whisper in metal. The ship seemed to breathe. Around her, it was alive, dying maybe, but still dangerous. Ilara followed the hum deeper, until she reached a tall door glowing with red symbols. Alien script. It meant, Reactor Nexus, authorized access only. She smiled. Perfect. The door wouldn't open. Not with codes. So she made her own. She placed a charge on the lock, stepped back, and braced herself. A soft pop echoed down the hall, no louder than a balloon bursting, and the door creaked open with a groan. Heat poured out instantly. The room inside wasn't just warm. It was burning. This was it. The heart of fire. A giant sphere floated. In the center of the chamber, wrapped in coils of energy, glowing with an unstable orange light. It looked like a small sun, angry and pulsing. Alien tech surrounded it. Tall control pillars, liquid power tubes, and curved symbols scrolling across the air like magic. This was the Zephyrian power source. This is what fed their weapons, their shields, their ships. Destroy this, and the entire fleet would fall. Ilara stepped forward. A screen lit up, scanning her face. It flashed red. Unauthorized life form. Threat detected. She rolled her eyes. Still rude, she muttered. Suddenly, sharp hissing filled the room. From the walls, 6 defense turrets unfolded like spider legs, mechanical eyes blinking, ready to fire. Ilara moved before they did. She dove behind a console as blue plasma bolts screamed past her. The air sizzled. Sparks danced across the floor. Her heart pounded in her ears. She waited for a pause and fire, 1 second. Then she popped out, aimed a stolen alien pistol, and shot the first turret dead. 5 left. Another bolt grazed her shoulder. She screamed but stayed up. Fired. Again. Another turret burst into smoke. 4. She ran for cover, slid under a metal pipe, flipped over a fallen drone, and hit the ground hard. But she didn't stop. Pain meant she was alive. She blasted 2 more turrets. Then the last. Silence returned. Ilara's breath came fast. Her vision blurred for a second, but the reactor still pulsed in front of her, waiting, daring. She dragged herself to the main console. The alien text on the screen blinked. Still locked, but Ilara had learned something from her time underground. The Zypharians believed in power, control, simplicity, and sometimes too much control was a weakness. She reached into her belt and pulled out an old Earth device, a basic hacking spike. Not fancy, not pretty, but strong. She jammed it into the console port. The screen sparked. Alien language scrambled, then translated. Emergency. Override detected. Core unstable. Proceed. Ilara stared at the message. Her hand hovered over the answer. Behind her, something moved. She turned fast. A Zafarian soldier stood at the door. Tall, wounded, furious, but he didn't fire. He just asked one question. Why? She looked him in the eyes. For every child you scared. For every mother you silenced. For every star you tried to steal. This is for them. She hit the button. The room changed instantly. The core's color turned white-hot. Energy surged through the walls like thunder. Sirens returned, not warning sirens. Death sirens. A countdown appeared on every screen. Reactor overload. 10 o'clock, 9:59. Ilara ran, back through the corridor, back past the broken turrets. She tapped her communicator. This is Ilara. I've triggered the overload. You've got 9 minutes to clear the sky, voices responded. Excited, nervous, alive, you did it. My God, you really did it. But she didn't smile. Not yet. Not until the monster was truly dead. As she reached the docking bay. A transport ship waited. Burnt. Damaged. But working. Her escape. She looked back once. The fire behind her was growing. The Zypharians had built this ship to burn planets. Now, a human was burning them from the inside. She climbed aboard. And vanished into the stars. The ship was dying, and it knew it. Metal groaned like it was screaming. Lights flickered like dying stars. Deep within the Zypharian warship, a sound pulsed through every wall. Slow, loud, final. Tick, tick, 9 minutes. That's all. The time it had left. Ilara Quinn sat in the pilot seat of a stolen escape transport. Sweat dripping down her neck. Her hands shaking over unfamiliar controls. Smoke filled the air. The ship's windshield was cracked. Panels sparked beside her. Warning messages flashed in alien text. But she didn't stop. She COULDN, single quotes D. Behind her. The reactor core she had just overloaded was turning into a sun. Its heat rose like a wave, ready to swallow everything in its path. The Zypharians, the warship, the memories of every city they had broken. But before that happened, Ilara had one more job to do. She had to make sure the rest of the resistance got away. She flipped a switch and opened a channel. This is Ilara Quinn, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. The core is unstable. Estimated detonation in under 9 minutes. All resistance units, get out now. A voice responded through the static. General Reich, commander of the Ember Fleet. Ilara? We're picking up a massive energy spike. From your location. It's the core, she confirmed. It's going to blow. Get our people out of the blast zone, now. Reich's voice was tight. What about you? She didn't answer. There was no need. Ilara looked at the navigation screen. The escape ship's engines were damaged. It couldn't outrun the explosion, not with the systems this broken. Not in time, she could try. But if she failed, the shockwave could catch the entire Ember fleet as they retreated. And that would mean everything she had done would be for nothing. No, she couldn't leave, not yet, not until the fleet was safe, not until every human soul was out of reach. Her fingers hovered over the manual controls. There was one more protocol the Ember leadership had written years ago. During the first wave of resistance planning, Sacrifice Protocol. It was simple. If the only way to win was to stay behind, then you stay. She took a deep breath, activating Sacrifice Protocol. She whispered the words like a prayer. Then she turned the ship around, not away from danger, but toward the center of it, toward the heart of the dying beast. Outside, the Ember ships lit up the sky like fireflies. They weaved through debris, past disabled enemy drones moving as fast as they could. They had been waiting for this moment for years. And now finally they had a chance, but they didn't know the price. Not yet. Inside the warship, Zephyrian officers panicked. Their command systems were collapsing. Their communications were down. Escape pods were jammed. A few tried to run. Most just froze, unable to believe a single human had done this. In the central control tower, High Commander Verkor stood in front of a failing screen. She was supposed to surrender. He whispered, his voice full of disbelief. No answer came. Just the sound of the ticking core. Tick, tick. Ilara brought the small ship into position. Through the glass, she could see the glowing center of the core again. Brighter now, shaking. Wild, sparks flew from every corner. Electricity danced in the air. It was unstable, violent, ready to take the entire ship with it. She checked the time. 2 minutes. That was enough. She locked the ship's trajectory directly at the core, then stood. One last job. She opened the last emergency beacon and recorded a message. This is Captain Ilara Quinn, Resistance ID 114X. If you're hearing this, I didn't make it. But I want you to know we won, not because we had bigger weapons, not because we had stronger ships, but because we refused to break. Her voice cracked. We are human, and humans, we burn brighter when everything around us turns dark. She pressed send. The message beamed out into the stars. Then she closed her eyes and waited. From a distance, far across the sky, the Ember fleet watched the Zephyrian warship. It lit up slowly, like a second sunrise. Then it shattered. The explosion moved in silence at first, a flash of white eating the black. Then came the wave, thunder rolling across space, swallowing debris, consuming everything. The warship was gone. Completely. And Ilara with it. Back at Ember Core, weeks later, the resistance gathered. They listened to her final message on every speaker, in every language. Some cried, some saluted. All of them remembered, not the fear, not the pain, but the courage, the spark that became fire, and the fire that became freedom. Space had never been so quiet. The explosion that destroyed the Zephyrian warship had vanished into the darkness, leaving only glowing dust where once there had been terror. The stars returned, blinking slowly as if they had been holding their breath. And Earth? Earth watched. They watched from bunkers, from resistance stations, from the shadows of shattered buildings and frozen mountaintop colonies. Screens across the broken planet flickered to life one by one, each playing the same broadcast. A woman's voice. Calm. Strong. Recorded moments before her death. This is Captain Ilara Quinn, Resistance ID 114X. If you're hearing this, I didn't make it, but I want you to know we won. The message didn't come from Earth. It came from space. From a transmitter buried in the wreckage of the enemy ship, shielded from the blast. Sent with her final breath. The aliens had called it surrender, but she had made it a message to all life that humans don't kneel. Not quietly. Not ever. The Ember Council, Earth's last leaders, sat inside a concrete command bunker somewhere under the Himalayan ice. They stared at the holographic recording as it played over and over again. Some wept, some clenched their fists. General Reich stood still, eyes locked on the floating image of Alara's face. She wasn't crying in the message. She wasn't angry. She was peaceful, like someone who had finally done what she came to do. And in the silence that followed her last words, Earth began to change. For the first time in years, human colonies across the planet rose from hiding. Rebels stopped running. The people didn't just feel less afraid. They felt alive. In Alara's death, they had found something stronger than survival. They had found defiance, and far above Earth, on the edge of deep space, someone else was watching. The last surviving Zephyrian fleet, smaller now, broken, scattered, sat in orbit around a dark moon. Their soldiers, once proud, now whispered in corners. Their command structure was in ruins. Half their ships had gone silent. They had never expected to lose, and now they were unsure what they were fighting for. Inside their remaining flagship, High Commander Verkor stood in front of a large viewing screen. His face was bruised, cut, tired. He no longer wore his ceremonial armor. Only a utility suit, torn at the sleeve, one claw wrapped in a healing bandage. He played Ilura's message again, not because he had to, because he couldn't stop. Her voice haunted him, that human. The one they said would surrender. She had looked death in the face and smiled. She had taken their greatest weapon and turned it against them. She had burned their pride to ash. Verkor turned away from the screen. Behind him stood his advisors, silent and waiting. One finally spoke. "Commander, what are your orders?" He didn't speak for a long time. Then slowly, he walked to the center of the room and opened a transmission channel to the Ember fleet orbiting Earth. It was the first time in history that a Zephyrian commander willingly opened peaceful contact with humans. And the message was short. 3 words. "We request terms." Back on Earth, in the Ember Fleet's control ship, the message was received. General Reich stood before the council. "They want peace," he said. "They want to talk." Someone asked, "Can we trust them?" Another said, "They'll betray US." But Reich raised a hand. "She made them afraid. Not of weapons, not of numbers, but of us. Of what we are. We don't beg. We don't bow. We burn. That's our strength." He turned to the transmission officer. "Prepare a response." The officer blinked. "Sir, what should I say?" Reich looked out the window toward the stars. His voice was calm. "Tell them. Judgment has already happened." And it spoke in the voice of a human named Alara Quinn. The Zephyrians never launched another attack. Not on Earth. Not on any planet. They signed a ceasefire. A slow, careful peace began to form, not from respect, but from fear. Fear of a race that refused to break. Fear of a woman who had sacrificed herself to prove a truth they could never forget, that humanity fights to the very last second, and even in death. We win. In the years that followed, statues were built, not of kings, not of generals. But of a woman in a torn uniform. Standing tall, eyes forward, hands at her side. A woman who didn't run, didn't bow, didn't even flinch. Years passed, not quickly and not easily, but they passed. The skies above Earth were finally blue again. The cities, once reduced to ash and steel, began to rise with new shapes, new voices, and new purpose. Children no longer whispered the word Zephyrian with fear. They said it like history, something real, but gone. The war was over, and peace, strange and fragile, had taken its place. But peace didn't forget, especially not the fire that had earned it. At the center of New Earth, the capital built atop the ruins of the old world, stood a monument unlike any other. No gold, no marble, no crown, just a tall iron statue of a soldier in a torn uniform, no weapon in her hands, no armor on her back, just her stance, unbroken, just her eyes, looking forward, just her face, calm, Ilara Quinn, the woman who had not flinched. Every year, on the anniversary of the Zephyrian fall, people gathered around the monument. Some brought flowers. Some brought old resistance badges. Others just stood in silence, but all of them remembered, not just the death, but the spark, the choice, the fact that one human, alone, inside the heart of the enemy, had changed the course of history. But Ilara's legacy wasn't just in stone. It was in the way Earth rebuilt itself, not with revenge, but with unity. The Ember Network became the new backbone of planetary defense. It wasn't a military command anymore. It was a global council, run by humans from every continent, working not just to protect Earth, but to protect the peace. Ilara had died for schools, taught her final message like a promise. Soldiers whispered her name before battle. Even Zypharians spoke of her with quiet respect, calling her the flame that walked. She had burned through their arrogance, and in doing so, had lit the path forward. But not everyone remembered her the same way. High Commander Verkor, now a broken figure in exile, lived far from the stars in a quiet zone beyond the edge of space. He had not been executed. He had not been forgiven. He had simply been left behind. In his room, faded and cold, a single human artifact sat on his shelf, a cracked recording device salvaged from the ruins of his ship. He played it often. We are human, and humans. We burn brighter when everything around us turns dark. That voice had defeated him. Not with bullets, with belief. One day, the screen in his room flickered with a new message from Earth. A young human diplomat, barely 30 years old, greeted him with a smile. "We finished the peace accord," the man said. "It's named after her. The Quinn Treaty. You should read it." Verkor didn't reply. He simply stared at the stars through his window and nodded once. Meanwhile, across Earth, life continued. In the fields, children ran under sunlight that was once hidden by smoke. In the towers, scientists worked beside former enemies to build cleaner energy. In the sky, ships moved freely, not to conquer, but to connect. And in every home, every screen, every page of every new history book, Ilara's story was told. But there was one place where her memory lived differently, a quiet garden outside the Ember HQ. It was a small private spot. A tree grew there, not tall, not wide, just strong. Around it were stones, each marked with the names of resistance fighters who never returned. At the base of the tree was a single plaque. It didn't list her rank. It didn't tell her story. It just had 4 words. She didn't even flinch. And that was enough. Because in the end, Ilara Quinn became more than a soldier. She became a symbol, not of war, not of loss, but of choice. The choice to fight when surrender is easy. The choice to burn when the world turns cold. The choice to become the fire